Python functions, the important chapter. First chapter index. First one. What is Python? What is function?
Okay, sir.
What is function? Next, types of functions in Python. Types of functions in Python. Next, advantages of functions. First three theory topics. Fourth one also theory. See, advantages of functions. Advantage of functions. Next, user-defined functions. User-defined functions. Rajesh, did you join?
Hi, sir. Good morning. I just joined, sir.
Okay. Cool. Observe. Fifth one, Savitri.
Sir.
Function with return a value. See. Function with return a value. Next, function with returns nothing. Function with returns nothing. Next, function with arguments. See. Function with arguments. Next, small topics. First four theory, last four practical. Function with default parameters or arguments. I will explain what is the difference between parameter and argument and relation. Function with default arguments. Default arguments. Eighth. Say this is the chapter index, Savitri.
Okay, sir.
I will take one by one. Observe Rajesh. First one, what is function? What is function? See, functions, you can find functions in functional programming languages or procedural languages, but not in object-oriented programming languages. In C language, you can find functions. Perl, you can find functions. And Python, functions and object methods. But in Java, no functions. Next, in C++, no functions. In structured programming or functional programming, you can find functions. What is a function, Rajesh? What is a function? What a function?
Sir, it operates based on the input and gives certain output. It has function.
Based on input and gives some output. That is incorrect. See, okay, some functions may not take user input. What is that one? Function with arguments is there.
Arguments without
function
arguments.
Without arguments type also there.
Yes, agreed.
For that type, function without arguments type, you no need to provide input now.
Yes, sir.
You tell me, Savitri, in your point of view, what is function? It is computer programming concept. What is function?
It's like a codes or block of code, like
block of code. The first one, it is a block of code or set of statements or group of notes I will provide, observe my explanation. Block of code or set of statements or group of statements. Next, block of code and runs. Run means execution. Runs when it is called. Otherwise, no execution now.
Yes, sir.
No execution. Suppose if you create 10 functions, each function is having 20 lines of code, 10 into 20, 200 lines you created, but you are not calling any function at this point of time, then no execution. So runs when it is called. Function is a block of code. See, function, just a minute. Function is a block of code. And one more thing, Savitri, block of code means multiple statements, not mandatory. One or
Okay,
more
sir.
statements.
Okay, sir.
One, suppose in your function body, you can write single statement.
Statement
If it
also.
is
Yes.
meaningful statement, if it is performing something, then you can use that one. Okay, function is a block of code or set of statements or group of statements. Next, function runs when it is called. Next, function takes arguments. Function takes arguments. Sometimes you may find this one, parameters. Functions takes arguments are parameters. Okay, but arguments are optional. Getting this point?
Sir.
Arguments or parameters are optional. See, based on your function requirement, you can create arguments. Okay, next, function can be called multiple times. See, a function can be called multiple times, not only single times. Create once, run it multiple times if required. See, called multiple times in your program or in another programs, etc. in your application. To provide reusability and modularity to the Python function, Python program. Observe this point here, argument versus parameter. See, in some documentations you can find argument, in some documentation you can find parameter. What is the difference between these two, argument, parameter? Have any idea, Savitri? Have any
have no
idea? Is there any difference between these two, or same? Is there any relation or difference?
Same only, sir.
Same only. Okay, then why is some are calling argument, some are calling what is that, parameters?
Parameters.
Observe, both are same, some difference is there. See, the terms parameter and argument can be used for the same thing. Information that is passed into a function. Observe this point carefully, Savitri. The terms parameter and argument can be used for the same thing. Information that is passed into a function. Next, a parameter is the variable listed inside the parenthesis. In the function definition, see, a parameter is the variable listed inside the parenthesis in the function definition.
Okay.
Next, an argument, the value is sent to the function when it is called. Observe, function creating time. Creating time, we use variable now. Suppose just I am writing partial code. Observe, I'm writing name. Okay, country. Just a minute. Name, country. This is creating time, Savitri. Function
Yes, sir.
creation time.
Okay.
Next, calling time. Calling time, I use suppose name, name Venkat, comma country India. Name country, they are parameters. Next, Venkat India, values for parameters, they are arguments. Getting the point? Any
Okay, sir.
confusion?
Okay, sir. Sir, name and country, what is that?
Name and country parameters.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Variable names na?
Yes, sir.
Name and country, variable names.
Okay, sir.
Venkat and India, values.
Okay, sir. Got it, sir.
Values. Say, observe.
Okay.
Don't confuse. Name and country,
Variables, sir.
parameters.
Parameters, variable names.
Variables.
Values.
Arguments. Values.
Okay, sir.
Suppose this time I am using Venkat India. Next time I may use
Name and
suppose Jadid Bangladesh.
okay, sir.
Jadid Bangladesh are arguments.
Okay, sir.
What is the skeleton? Means the structure. What is the syntax? Name country.
Okay, sir.
Name country. Observe once again. The terms parameter and arguments can be used for the same thing. What is that same thing? Information that is passed into a function. A parameter is the variable listed inside the parenthesis in the function definition. Function definition means creating function. Next, an argument is a value that is sent to the function when it is called. Observe, name is parameter, Venkat is value for that one. Country is parameter, India is value, isn't it?
Sir, simply can we say like variables, names of variables is as parameters and values are as arguments?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Variables are parameters, values
sir.
for variables are arguments.
Arguments. Okay, sir.
Both are for same thing. Information that is passed into a function. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Second one, observe types of functions in Python. Rajesh. Here in this example, did you get any clarity missing? Here parameter, name is variable, country is variable.
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Venkat is value, India is value. Okay, na?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Observe, Rajesh. Types of functions in Python, not only in Python, Rajesh. You take any functional programming language like C, Perl, etc. Basically, we have two types of functions.
Yes, sir.
What are the two types of functions?
Built-in function and user-defined function.
Yes, there are mainly two types of functions in Python. One is built-in. One is built-in functions. Next, another is user defined. User defined functions. Built-in functions means predefined, already defined by that programming language developers, Python developers, Python language developers, not Python application developers. Okay, built-in functions, or you can say predefined functions. Say you take any language,
Sir.
Savitri, built-in concepts are limited.
Okay, sir.
Built-in
Yes.
functions or methods, built-in concepts are limited, but user-defined unlimited. Why? See, they create to language developers, Java language developers or Python language developers, programming language developers create built-in concepts for most popular tasks or most popular usages, frequently used things, not for everything. But in user-defined functions, you can create n
Based on
number
our
of user-defined functions based on your project requirement. Getting the
okay, sir.
point?
Okay, sir.
And one more thing, in our Selenium, nearly 70 built-in functions are there. For example, input is built-in function. Indirectly, we discussed some built-in functions. Len is built-in function. Type is built-in function. Print is
Print.
built-in function. Okay.
Yes.
Tomorrow we will discuss some important built-in functions of Python. They are enough. Remaining limited use. Next, today we will discuss user-defined functions. Built-in functions limited, but user-defined functions unlimited. Okay. Come to third topic. Advantage of functions. Rajesh. Rajesh, can you tell me what are the advantages of functions?
Functions can be reused, sir. First one.
First thing, code reusability. Okay. Code reusability, Rajesh. Code reusability. See, reusability is the main achievement of Python functions. Not only Python, C functions, C Perl functions. See,
Okay, sir.
reusability is the main achievement of programming functions. Getting?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Next, here observe. Reusability is the main achievement. Okay. When to choose functions, when not to choose functions. First, whenever you want to perform a task multiple times, then choose functions. Create function and call the function whenever the task is required. See, whenever you want to perform any task, multiple, or you can say action, whenever you want to perform any action or any operation multiple times, then choose functions. Not to choose, when need not choose, whenever you want to perform a single task, whenever you want to perform an action only single time, then you need not to choose functions. You just write that code in main program. Getting the point, Savitri? Or any confusion?
Sir, no confusion.
When to choose functions? When need not choose? Tell me.
Sir, whenever you want to do multiple times, then better to use
What you have to do?
Create
code,
functions.
sir. Create functions and use functions.
You missed one core word, important word. Whenever you want to perform an action,
Okay, sir. Perform an action.
suppose addition is action,
Okay, sir.
operation,
Okay.
multiplication operation, addition operation, or any logic. Say, whenever you want to perform an action
Multiple
or
times.
operation, or you can say whenever you want to perform a task also correct term.
Okay, sir.
Whenever you want to perform a task multiple times, then choose functions. Instead of writing again and again, create a function and call the function multiple times. When need not to choose functions. Whenever you want to perform a task single time,
Every time. Okay,
then
sir.
need not to choose functions. Write that
Right.
code in main
Main.
program. And one more thing, function nothing but subprogram. Function nothing but subprogram. See what programming concepts we use in main program, all can be used in functions. All can be used in functions. Function is nothing but subprogram. Suppose we use variables, operators, conditional statements, loop statements, etc. in main programs. All can be used in functions also.
Okay,
But
sir.
only thing is function is subprogram. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Next here so far observe what is function. Next
Types of functions.
when to choose functions, when need not choose functions. Next advantage of functions, types of functions already we discussed. Basically two types, built-in, user-defined.
Yes, sir.
Code reusability is the main thing. Code reusability. Next, code reusability. Next,
Splitting of code
splitting of code.
into multiple
Provide observe.
functions.
Using functions, we can avoid rewriting the same code again and again.
Yes,
See,
sir.
avoid rewriting the same code, rewriting the same code. Suppose if you want to perform a task multiple times, you need to rewrite that code again and again. Suppose if you create a function, you can avoid that one. What is the advantage of avoiding rewriting the same code, Savitri? What is the advantage? If
Sir,
you
length of
rewrite a code, first thing, you can save the
yeah.
time now.
Yes, sir.
You can
Yes,
reduce
sir.
the code size now.
Yes, sir.
You can reduce the
And
code size.
complexity
At
also.
the same time, you
Yes.
can save the time. Means that man hour you can save.
Right. Yes, sir.
Avoiding by avoiding the
Rewriting.
rewriting same code, we can save the time as well as reduce the code size. This one.
Memory also. Okay, sir.
Memory also. Yes, memory also. We can call Python functions multiple times in a program and anywhere in a program. Anywhere. Next,
Okay.
we can track. Already Rajesh tried to explain this one. We can track a large Python program easily when it is divided into multiple functions, multiple units. Getting the
Yes, sir.
point?
Yes, sir.
See,
Yes, sir.
we can track a large Python program easily when it is divided into multiple functions. Okay. Next, one more thing. That is code maintenance. See, easier
Easy
uh,
code maintenance.
code maintenance. See, easier code maintenance. Code maintenance. See, these are the important advantages. Observe once again. Savitri notes I will send the
Okay, sir.
text format, notepad. Observe
Okay, sir.
advantage of functions in Python, not only in Python, in computer programming. First one, reusability is the main achievement in computer functions. Next, using functions, we can avoid rewriting the same code again and again in a program. so that we can reduce the code size. Next, we can save the time, memory, computer memory also. Okay. Next, we can track a large Python program easily when it is divided into multiple blocks or functions. Next, easier code maintenance. See, these are the important advantage. Before moving to next topic, Rajesh, tell me in your own words, what are the advantages of functions in Python?
Code reusability, sir. We can
First one, code reusability. Next,
then we can rewrite. I mean, uh, I'm sorry. Sir. We
can
like we
avoid
can
rewriting the same code again and
we
again
can
so that
reduce,
we can
uh,
save the
avoid
time,
the multiple lines, save time, save memory,
save resources,
save man hours.
man hour or environmental resource or human resources.
Yes, sir.
Save resources and save
Save this, sir.
uh,
Save time.
time. Time is different, resource different. Okay.
Yes.
Next,
Third one, we can track the
large Python programs
large
easily
Python codes in, if we divide into
into
small
multiple
pieces,
functions.
like into multiple functions, and
Next,
easier to
last one,
maintain.
important one,
Easier to maintenance.
easier maintenance of code, easier code
Yes,
maintenance.
yes,
Okay.
sir.
Next, fourth one, this is also theory. Fifth one, onwards, practical, Savitri. User defined functions, Savitri. Observe, Savitri, in second one, built-in functions, user defined functions. See, two important types or categories, two types of functions. Today, we will discuss user defined functions. Tomorrow, built-in functions. See, first I am taking user defined functions. Say, in user defined functions, what we have to discuss? Agenda. Before that, a function is a reusable block of programming statements designed to perform a certain task. To define a function in Python, we use def, def keyword, def, def keyword. Okay. First observe the agenda. Function with
Arguments.
no arguments.
Okay.
First, no arguments. Function, say, functions take arguments, but arguments are optional. Suppose if you don't use arguments for any function, use blank parenthesis. Function with no arguments and return a value. This is one type.
Sir, while creating functions, if we give parameters, then we need to pass the arguments as well when we are calling, right?
While creating only, we decide whether arguments are required or not. If required, use arguments by comma separated.
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, use blank parenthesis.
Okay.
While declaration only, we decide.
Yes, sir.
While declaration only, we decide. For example, observe Savitri. Suppose for I am not writing full syntax, partial syntax. Observe. Suppose for one function, I want arguments. Suppose my function is for adding two numbers. What are the two numbers? While calling the method, you can give the values dynamically. Getting this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
What are the two numbers? While calling that function, you can give the values dynamically. Means this function for adding any two numbers. For that I am using argument. Here no data type, no. In Java data type. Suppose num1, comma num2 arguments I am using. Num1 comma num2. While calling, in num1 place I may use 100, num2 place I may use 200. Next time num1 10,000, num2 17,000. Like suppose for one function I don't want arguments. While creating only I use blank. Getting this point?
Yes, sir. Got it, sir.
Suppose if you want single argument, suppose argument is the parameter name, use this one. Suppose double, this one. Suppose triple, suppose val1, val2. Otherwise, use meaningful. Suppose name, try to use small letters only. You can use uppercase also for identifiers, but try to use small. Suppose name, next age, next education. 3 arguments. Observe. Suppose
Got it,
I
sir.
am creating 4 functions in my program.
Okay, sir.
Rajesh. First function I don't want arguments. So I used just blank parenthesis. That is syntax. Provision required. For next
Arguments.
function, I want to use single argument. Next, third function, 2
Yes, sir.
arguments. First argument, comma, second argument. Next, fourth function, 3 arguments. First value, comma, that parameter, comma, second parameter, comma, third parameter. Like that you can give. Getting the point?
Okay, sir.
Any
Yes, sir.
problem, Rajesh?
No, sir. Got it.
Based on your program requirement, you can decide arguments, usage of arguments while creating functions. Okay. Suppose if you declare functions with parameters, while calling that one, if you are not providing that data, means arguments, then it will show error only, isn't it?
Okay, sir.
Next, function with arguments. Another type, observe. Function with arguments and return a value. Okay. Next, function with no arguments. Function with arguments and return a value. Next, third one, function with no arguments.
No arguments and
And
no
returns
return.
nothing. No return value.
No
Otherwise,
return
you can
value.
say no arguments and no
Return
return
value.
value. Return value. No return value. Next, function with arguments
Arguments and
and
no
no.
return value.
Observe. Divide 2. First one, return a value. Here, no arguments. Return a value, no arguments. Next, arguments. No arguments. No return value. For no return value, no arguments. Getting?
Okay, sir.
Any confusion?
Yes, sir.
First I am taking first one. Observe, this is fifth one. Python function with return a value. Just a minute. Here you can ask one question, Savitri. Suppose
Sir.
Python function with return a value. Okay. If you call that function, it will return some value.
Yes, sir.
Next, no return value. No return value type is there. Then what is the use of no return value?
Yeah,
What
I
is the
got the
use?
same. Even with
Pardon?
no argument, no return. I got the same doubt. Even with no argument, no return.
Okay. No return value, then what is the use? See here,
Yeah.
function execution means, see here, what is the function task? Observe. Function perform
An action
an action, perform an action and
based on inputs.
return value. Don't mix anything. And return a
Okay, sir.
value. This is one type.
Yes, sir.
This is one type. Getting?
Okay. Okay, sir.
Perform an action and return a value.
Value.
Take arguments. Without arguments also you can return value. Without arguments also you can return value. Some hard-coded values may be used. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Suppose without return any value, it returns nothing. For that, perform an action. Just perform an action, isn't it?
Okay, sir.
Suppose, observe first example. Add two numbers and return the value. Add
sir.
two numbers, suppose 1000, 10,000, and return the value. Returning the value is return type now.
Yes, sir.
And return a value. Return a value. Observe, suppose add two numbers. Add two numbers. This is action or task or operation. Add
Yeah.
two numbers. Next, return to a variable. Return the result or sum. Okay. Suppose I am adding 1000, 10,000. Next, returning 11,000 into a variable. Getting?
Okay, sir. Got it.
Next,
Yes, sir.
observe. Add two numbers. Add two numbers. No returning value. No returning value. Next,
Okay.
in software testing scenario, Rajesh, I will explain one task. Observe. Suppose I have a sample application. In this sample application, using this login page, I want to create some 10 test cases. First one, admin login. For this login, username 8 box, password 8 box, click on login button. Next, admin invalid attempt. Invalid attempt, it is show error message. Next, admin locking functionality. After 3 failed login attempts,
Yes, sir.
it will be locked for some time. That is
Yes,
admin
sir.
locking functionality. Next, after successful login, click online catalog link, then it will redirect to user interface. Say for this using this username 8 box, password 8 box, login button, I have 4 or 5 test cases. In 4 or 5 test cases, I need to write these steps. What are the steps? Enter username, enter password,
The
click login
password.
button.
Click
Okay,
login.
I can use data, valid or input, valid or invalid. I will use parameters. I will use parameters. But username 8 box, password 8 box, login common. For that, if you create a function, if you call that function, suppose it is generating the steps. What are the steps? Enter username, enter password, click login button. 3 steps. No returning
Yes.
value. After clicking
Yes.
this one, it will read. It will load another page. After that page, you can insert verification point. Suppose so and so page exists, then test pass or fail like. Getting? Here,
Yes, sir.
here I want to create a function with login steps. Enter username, enter password, click login button. For this, I don't want to return any value. just navigation. Getting?
Okay. Okay, sir.
Yes, yes, sir.
Now observe function. Did you understand this concept, Savitri?
Yes, sir.
Function with return a value means perform an action under return a value.
Yes,
Next,
sir. Got it.
no returning value means perform an action. Performing
Okay.
an action is default, isn't it?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Performing an action is default.
Yes, sir.
Suppose you no need to confuse.
No,
For
sir. That
example,
should
here
be done
observe
with.
no
Yes.
return value, no return value. No problem. Performing an action is there. You have
Yes,
to
sir. Function
perform.
itself. Yes, sir. Function itself
Yes,
defines.
function means default thing is perform an action.
Action. Yes, sir.
Okay. Function with no arguments and return a value. Observe this one. Function. You know, Savitri, how to create function using def keyword now.
Yes, sir. Def.
Def keyword.
Yes.
Observe. Create a function. Create a function. This is no parameters. Your heading is there now. No arguments and return value is there. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Def
Yes, sir.
def
Any function. My function or function.
function name. Oh, just a minute. Def function name, open and close parenthesis,
Parenthesis. Colon.
colon, that is code block,
Yes, sir.
code indentation. Say if you use editor, it will provide that one. Here, use docstring. Docstring means documentation comment. Savitri.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Documentation comment. Sometimes we may use some multi-line comments for our reusable components.
Yes, sir.
Docstring. It is optional. This
Okay.
docstring is optional, isn't it?
Okay. Okay, sir.
It is optional. Suppose if you don't want to write any meaningful description, no problem. Nothing. It will execute. Suppose statement 1. Just a minute. Multiple statements, not mandatory. For statement 2, 2, 3, 4. Just a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like this, you can write it. Last one, return statement. Return is Python branching statement. Okay. Branching statements are there now. Break, continue, and
Yes,
return.
yes, sir.
Okay.
They continue.
This is the syntax. I will provide example. Next, how to call also. Before that, observe guidelines. Guidelines to write. Guidelines to write functions. Guideline to write functions in Python. Functions in Python. Observe first one. Def single small letter. Def keyword along with the function name is used to define the function. Def for defining. Okay. Next, the identifier rule must follows the function name. Observe this point, Savitri. Here function name is there now.
Yes, sir.
It is
Function.
not keyword. It is
Yes, sir.
identifier. Variable is identifier. Function also identifier. You can use
Okay.
meaningful name. Suppose
Yes,
I
sir.
want to add two numbers. Add, open and close parenthesis. My function name is add. Suppose
Okay.
multiply. My function name is multiply. Getting?
Okay. Yes, sir. Getting, sir.
See, function is identifier. The identifier rule must follow the function name. Next,
Okay, sir.
a function accepts parameters and they can be optional. Based on your requirement, you can create. Next, the function block is started with colon. Observe. Function block started with colon. Before
Yes,
colon,
sir.
that is function name. The function block is started with the colon and block statement must be at the same indentation. Same indentation. Suppose first 4 blank lines, blank spaces I use.
Yes.
Second one also same. Third one also same. Fourth one also same. Observe this point. The function block is started with the colon and the block statements must be at the same indentation.
Okay, sir.
Indentation means spaces of the line. Okay, before
Okay.
statement. Next, the return statement is used to return the value. A function can have only one return statement. Okay,
Okay, sir.
only one return statement. Okay, that is syntax. Example. Suppose I am creating a small function. For this function, no arguments. Returning value is there. No arguments. Observe def. My function name is colon. Suppose a equals to 100. Next, b equals to 200. Next, suppose return a plus b. Return a plus b. There are no arguments. Hard-coded values are there inside function. Getting?
Yes, sir.
Suppose if we use arguments, if you use parameters, what will happen? You can say this sum method is not method, function. This sum function is for adding two numbers. What are the two numbers? 100 and 200. They are fixed numbers. Isn't it?
Yes,
See,
sir.
otherwise you can write like this. C equals to a plus b.
B.
Suppose,
Let's see.
otherwise you can just res. Res is variable name. Res. What is the role of this function? This function for adding two numbers. What
Yes,
are the two numbers?
100 and
Fixed.
200.
100 and
Fixed.
200. Suppose instead of fixed numbers or constant numbers, constant values, if you use parameters num1 comma num2, then you can provide the values dynamically.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
That is the advantage of parameters or arguments. Observe. I will explain. I will show calling a function. Savitri.
Sir.
It is very simple. Function name enough. Calling a function. Suppose what is the function name?
Sum.
Open and close parenthesis. Enough.
Okay.
Just a minute. You create that function. Just a minute. Create that function.
Okay, sir.
Def. Suppose function name,
Sum.
sum,
Of
open and
colon.
close parenthesis.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
A.
I think it is built in. Suppose add. This one also. Okay. Function name. Sum. Next enter. Suppose A equals to 100. B equals to 200. Here we need to discuss one point. Scope of variables. Say we have basically we have two types of variables. One is global variable and the other is local variable.
Local.
These are A and B are local variables. A and B are local variables. Why we declared inside a function.
Yes, sir.
Suppose res equals to A plus B. Next return.
Yes.
Return. Observe that orange color. Why?
Yes,
that
sir.
is keyword.
Okay.
That is keyword. This is function definition. Save. Next, call that function. Suppose
Sum.
That's it.
Okay, sir.
Suppose just a minute.
Print sum.
Just a minute. Print not required. Yes, print required. Yes. Print of just a minute. I'm writing another one. Hello Python. Here it returns some value. You take into variable, or you can directly print. First take this one into variable. Suppose x equals to just a minute. Variable x equals to sum. Okay. Print of x. What is that x output? What is the x output?
300.
Run 300 now. Otherwise, you can suppose after this one, I want to just print that some value. Just print that some value instead of taking into variable. Returning value now. So I am returning the value into a variable and reusing. You can reuse this x for multiple operations, isn't it?
Okay, sir.
Suppose I am returning some value to x, then x can be used for n number of operations in your program. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Next, otherwise, if you want to print directly, just print that one. Just print sum. Suppose
Print of sum.
just a minute.
Sum.
The sum
Total value.
is meaningful message I'm writing. It is optional. Okay.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Sum.
Comma sum.
Sum. It is
Of.
function. Sum. Okay, now.
Okay, sir.
Just
Yes,
a minute. Save. Run module. 300. Hello Python 300. Observe.
Yes,
The
300.
sum is 300.
Yes, sir.
Spell mistake. Okay, no problem. The sum is 300. Run module. Okay, na?
Okay, sir.
Just a minute. Suppose here no arguments. Sum, not sum. Here no arguments, Savitri.
Yes, sir.
Arguments I will show in another one. But
Okay.
In this example also, it is used. It is required for differentiation. Okay.
Okay.
Set
Okay, sir.
that one. Later, I will show another example. Later, I will
Okay.
show another example. But in this requirement also, I will show arguments for differentiation. Now,
Okay.
first one, this is without arguments now.
Yes, sir.
See, where is that one? Function with no arguments and return a value. Function with arguments. Observe. Suppose I am using two arguments. Num1, comma, num2. Num1, comma, num2. Suppose
num1 plus num2.
num1 plus num2. Okay. Same. Here I want to
Sum
use
of
value.
100.
Suppose 1, 2, 3, 4, comma 4,000. 1, 2, 3, 4, comma 4,000. Next here also 100, comma 700. Observe, first output will be 5,234. Second one 800. Save the program. Run module. Observe, 5,234. The sum is 800. We are
Okay.
calling that function multiple
Yes.
times, but every time we are using data dynamically. What
Okay.
is that?
Okay.
What is the purpose of this function? It is for adding two numbers. What are the two numbers? The numbers you can give dynamically while calling that function. First time use 10 lakh, 20 lakh. Next time use 5,000, 2,000. Values can be provided dynamically while calling the function. That is the advantage of using arguments. Getting?
Okay, sir.
Suppose if no arguments,
Yes,
you
sir.
can use constant values, or you can say fixed values, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Problem, rise query.
Yes,
Rajesh.
Sir, for same example,
Uh,
if we don't pass arguments, then it will give runtime error or
yes,
syntax error.
error now. Suppose if you just call without this one, say run module. Error now.
Yes, sir.
Line
Okay.
5. Line
Yes.
5. Observe.
To position arguments.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No arguments now.
Yes, sir.
But in
Yes, sir.
function definition, we have arguments now. Without arguments, if you call, it will show runtime error. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Any problem?
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
This is runtime
Error.
error. Runtime error. Just a minute. I will start next one and continue tomorrow. What is the sixth one? Function with arguments and return value. We already covered now.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Arguments.
We already covered sixth one. Function with arguments, return a value. What is this one? Just a minute. Just a minute. Where are the arguments? Here. Sixth one. Function with arguments and return a value. Okay. Without arguments and return a value. With arguments and return a value. In the both scenarios, arguments mandatory na?
Yes, sir.
Arguments mandatory. Suppose in both scenarios, returning a value mandatory, isn't it?
Return is mandatory.
Return, observe. returning a value with arguments. Before that, return value, no arguments. See, in these two scenarios, returning a value is mandatory, isn't it? Next, without returning any value, observe this one. No return value, one concept is there now.
Yes, sir.
I think we completed first two. Function with no arguments, no return value, unwritten value.
Yes, sir.
Function with no arguments, unwritten value. Next, function with arguments, unwritten value completed. Tomorrow, function with no arguments, no return value. Next, arguments, no return value. Return value completed with arguments, without arguments. Next, tomorrow, no return value with arguments,
No.
without arguments. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay,
Before that, I will show one simple one. Function with default arguments. Function with default arguments. Observe this point. Suppose here, observe, equals to 100, equals to 200. Just a minute. No runtime error here. Suppose 1000, comma 5000. What is the output of this one, Rajesh? I'm adding two numbers. What is the output? 6000.
300, sir.
What is 300? 1000, 5000.
But
These are default arguments.
give.
Just a minute. Don't confuse.
Okay.
Don't confuse. Just a minute. Suppose this time 300. I will explain. Observe. 6300. Run module. 6300. Observe Savitri.
sir.
Here default arguments. Suppose if you don't use any arguments, then it will take default values. What are the default values? Num1 100, num2 200. Suppose in first time calling, I am using values, num1 1000, num2 5000. So it will consider your values. Suppose for second time calling, some blank parenthesis. Second time calling, I am not using arguments. Then it will consider
The default.
default arguments.
Yes,
Getting the point?
okay, sir.
Abdul Rajesh, any confusion?
No, sir.
Ask me.
But-
Suppose if you have any.
But sir, generally we won't give like this, right?
Pardon?
Generally we won't give values directly to function parameters, right?
These are default arguments. Sometimes default things required. Maybe, for example, observe.
Okay.
Suppose if you reserve if you try to reserve a ticket, railway ticket or bus ticket, Savitri,
Sir.
default one ticket will be there now.
Okay, sir.
No zero tickets now.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Default
Yes,
is
sir,
one
yes.
ticket. Suppose you want 3 tickets this time. You can you can use your data 3. Then it will consider 3. It doesn't consider default. Suppose if you don't use any ticket number, then it will take
The default.
default one ticket.
Yes, sir.
Default one ticket. Suppose next time you want 4 tickets. If you enter the data, then it will consider your data. Suppose if you don't use any data, then default data will be there. Suppose for tickets, Rajesh, if no default data, Then error or zero na?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Tell me, Rajesh. Any confusion still?
No, sir. Got it. Good example, sir. Thank you. I was able to understand.
And one more thing. Suppose in your function four parameters are there. You can write three parameters general, one parameter that default parameter, isn't it?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Now I am going to close the today's session. Today important session, Python functions, Savitri.
Sir.
Any queries related to this
No, sir.
chapter?
No, sir.
What about you, Rajesh?
No, sir. I'm good.
Okay. We'll meet tomorrow, same time. Thank you.